The OneAcademy is the heart of our company. Cryptocurrency is not an easy product. It's a very innovative product based on technology and based on very, very complex concepts. For us to be part of this financial revolution, to be part of cryptocurrency and of a community, we need to understand exactly what we do and what we talk about. And this is why we have the OneAcademy. The OneAcademy provides you with concepts, provides you with explanation on cryptocurrency and on the financial world. I would encourage everybody to join the courses, to do the certificates, and to understand thoroughly how to use cryptocurrency, what cryptocurrency is, and how we can change the world by using cryptocurrency. OneAcademy. Learn today, lead tomorrow. The OneAcademy is the heart of our company. Cryptocurrency is not an easy product. It's a very innovative product based on technology and based on very, very complex concepts. For us to be part of this financial revolution, to be part of cryptocurrency and of a community, we need to understand exactly what we do and what we talk about. And this is why we have the OneAcademy. The OneAcademy provides you with concepts, provides you with explanation on cryptocurrency and on the financial world. I would encourage everybody to join the courses, to do the certificates, and to understand thoroughly how to use cryptocurrency, what cryptocurrency is, and how we can change the world by using cryptocurrency. OneAcademy. Learn today, lead tomorrow.
Okay, Noel, could you start the introduction, please?
Greetings all. Good day, good evening to everyone from the Caribbean and the rest of the world. Welcome to our OneAcademy Zoom call. We certainly appreciate your being on the call with us. My name is Mirelle Zama from the Caribbean island of Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm your co-host today. And with a reminder of why we are here, our founder, Dr. Ruja Ignatova, has said, we learn today and lead tomorrow. What is OneAcademy? OneAcademy is an innovative e-learning platform covering a broad range of topics, including financial areas such as financial analysis, asset management, Forex, the stock exchange, blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, and more. Our mission is to provide our students with a guidance and educational material needed to achieve financial literacy. OneAcademy was developed by finance experts and academics. It is highly structured and easy to understand. You learn at your own pace and can be part of the future of the global financial reset. Our intention is to give you a unique sense of understanding and facts, which you can use to enhance your knowledge and daily lives, as well as promote our core product, our OneAcademy, and of course, the benefits of our ecosystem. I certainly encourage you to take copious notes to assist you in your quest to become certified, knowledgeable, and wise business leaders and money managers. Today, our presenters, we have a panel of presenters looking at, as we start the month of May, we're looking at COVID, and what happens when, what's the new normal, if we are ready, how it will impact us moving forward, moving beyond where we are. So our panel consists today, and they will be chiming in at various times, Mr. and Mrs. Ivan and Michelle Mark, Mr. Alvin Morton, Mr. Kester Beal, Mr. Dwayne Cadiz, Mr. Noel Emmanuel Jack. So the panelists are here, and to lead off the discussion will be Mr. Ivan Mark.
All right, greetings. Greetings, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good night, whatever part of the world that you are. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn Zoom call, of course, 2020. And as we enter the month of May, what we want to do is, as said on Friday, and this session will actually be coming off a discussion that we had on Friday. Of course, we had a fantastic panel discussion on Friday. And I want to continue in that same line, because I believe that everybody is concentrating on one thing and is not really seeing the entire picture for what it is. What it is basically is about surviving after the COVID-19 lockdown, because as Muriel Azama says, that the COVID-19 will be with us for a long, long period of time. Only time will tell. But in the meantime, one still has to survive, one still has certain things to do, one still has obligations and responsibilities to their family and themselves to survive, to actually continue living. And we believe that we have something that will give you the tools, will give you the information, and will give you the know-how to survive these things. Why? Because it has happened in the past. So looking back, one could now plot the course of what may, with some degree of accuracy, what may happen with this situation and what one can do to protect themselves and to continue their survival. So I want to start off, of course, with the OneAcademy. The OneAcademy actually, in the level 1, teaches us give us some information on what we can do in crisis, when there's a crisis looming, what we can do. And yes, I have here the physical copy of the level 1. And if you read page 6, I don't want to pull it up, I have it also on my screen. But what it literally says is, believe it or not, there's a way for you to avoid the effects of a current economic downturn. You can protect your wealth and become prosperous in these tough times by diversification your portfolio, making a structured investment plan, discovering new highlights, investment products like cryptocurrencies, and investing in trustworthy gold and silver. Now, there's no short sight here of saying cryptocurrencies and gold and silver, because at the time when the last recession happened, cryptocurrencies basically was coming into their own. That was at that point in time, that was the introduction of cryptocurrencies, right? So the book goes on to say, investing in gold and silver markets at the proper time can certainly benefit you. And I go back, of course, to during history. I mean, gold and silver basically is around for 5,000 years. Regardless of what new products come on, what new asset class or whatever, they do not have the history as gold and silver. So that is one. So the book makes mention of that. The ironic thing is, though, is that we are not seeing, it is not that easy anymore at this point in time to acquire these metals. Cryptocurrencies, yes. And of course, because we are more or less given education on cryptocurrencies, we also provide you the means of acquiring cryptocurrencies. So this in itself is an advantage to not only the community, but those who are looking for safe havens to really protect their wealth. I want to show you a little video. And again, this is about informing you. Now, it may be a little deep, but I will simplify it as we go along. and give you the analogy between what has taken place and what is happening now. So this, let me share my screen. This here is an interview between, all right, are you seeing this screen, Muriel?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. All right, okay, great. So this is an interview that was done between Chris Cole, I believe his name is, right, who is an analyst. And he went back about 200 years to test market strategies and so forth. And he noticed that there's always a correlation and there's always the same thing happening and happening. If you look at this chart in front of you here, you can see from 1928, of course, the Great Depression happened in 1921. And if you notice certain things, when the recession ended, when it had a rebirth, when it had stagnation, when it had a boom, and he will explain it to some extent in this video. So I'm going to play a little bit of this video just for you to hear and for you to see that we are in a period that is basically on the decline. We are in that period right now. So there are certain things we could expect. So let's hear him as he gives the analogy. And what happened, he also gives the analogy of the Ouroboros. The Ouroboros, of course, is that Greek symbol of the snake devouring itself, its own tail. And what he's saying is that at every time when there is a death of a system, it resembles the Ouroboros, that snake devouring its own self. Unless it is more or less interrupted, because the analogy is really the allegory between the hawk and the serpent. So let's hear what he's saying.
That's definitely not always the case. So to that point, one of the strategies we actually tested was buy the dip. How would buy the dip perform going back 90 years? This is very interesting. Buying the dip, you don't think of it as a short volatility strategy, but it is short gamma, or it's short that autocorrelation effect. Well, buy the dip has performed incredibly well over the last 10 years. And really over the last 20 years, as central banks have been very reactive to market stress.
That's an understatement.
Right? Well, it's very interesting. If you go back and you test buy the dip over 90 years, that strategy goes bankrupt 3 times.
Bankrupt's a big word.
I mean, flat out loses.
Okay, so I want to make a note of that. He said that strategy goes bankrupt 3 times over a period of 90 years. So if you look at the cycles, they're usually 7, 10 year, 20, 30 years. So you're looking at 30-year cycles, literally. And he is saying that this happens regardless. This is just how the system operates. All right? So I wanted to make a note of that. Bankruptcy 3 times during that 90-year period. Okay?
All of its money. 3 times over a 90-year history. It is only really in the last 10 years where it's compounded at about 10% a year where we've seen that outperformance.
I think that might, let's see, is that the quantitative easing era?
I think
It is.
it's not a coincidence.
So.
Yes, not a coincidence at all.
So you tweeted out something a few days ago about long-term deflationary trends.
Yeah.
It feels like we keep going there. What in your mind could possibly ignite inflation? Because it's the one thing that nobody is expecting. We're all expecting wash, rinse, repeat, more deflation next time there's a disruption of any kind. And again, every central bank comes riding into the rescue with more stimulus.
More stimulus. So looking back at, there have been other cycles across history that are like an Ouroboros eating its own tail. If we take this beyond just short volatility, we can think of it as part of the entire debt deflation cycle. So this idea that you start out with something good, you start out with real economic growth, technology, and demographics, and that leads to growth. And fantastic, you're growing, the economy's growing, it's fundamental growth. At a certain point in time, the fundamentals get stretched, and we become reliant on fiat devaluation and debt expansion
So think of the baby boomer generation generating genuine economic growth, and then they're starting to move to spending less. And how do you fill that gap?
Exactly. So to this point, we start out in this framework. It's in the period of 1984 to 2007, one of the most incredible periods of asset price growth and asset appreciation growth in not just American history, in history period.
And when did the Great Recession take place? 2008. So you had this massive growth between 1984 and 2007, and then 2008, of course, everyone knows what happened then.
90% of the returns of a 60-40 stock bond portfolio came from the 22 years between 84 and 2007. Just 22 years drove 90% of the gains of that portfolio over 90 years.
I probably couldn't count on one hand the number of investors who've been around since before 1984.
Exactly. The average investment advisor is 52 years old. They were kindergartner during the stagflationary period of the 1970s. So you have all these baby boomers, 76 million baby boomers, largest generation in American history. They're teenagers right into the devaluation of gold in the 1971. That is driving a tremendous amount of inflation at that point in time. Interest rates go up to 19%, and then these baby boomers, 76 million of them, enter the workforce right in the early 80s. And they start making money. They start making money, and they start spending. They start investing. So you have baby boomers coming on in. Then you have a trend towards globalization. So we're able to export our inflation overseas. You have a technology boom as well. And then interest rates begin dropping.
Oh, yes.
So, and
may he rest in peace, Paul Volcker.
Exactly. And as if that's not enough, taxes start coming down. So you have this once in a generation, once in several hundred years, economic boom, asset price boom that occurs, driven as baby boomers come into the workforce, begin savings, enter their prime earning years. But now those boomers are going to be retiring. They're going to be drawing $28 trillion out of markets instead of putting that into markets. This obviously presents a tremendous deflationary force. So I like to think about this as a snake. If we take the snake metaphor and we pull it out, it's not just short volatility. It is almost like a snake devouring its own tail as part of a business cycle. The snake is eating prey naturally, compressing inwards through secular growth, and that's healthy. But towards the end of the secular growth cycle, that snake relies on financial engineering, excess leverage, and begins eating its own tail. And that is where we're at, I would say, in the cycle right now. And you've written beautifully on this about some of the debt problems out there. You know, currently we're at 48% debt to GDP, highest corporate debt to GDP, highest level in American history.
You tack on, you aggregate non-financial, we're at 74%.
74%.
So, I mean, unheard of numbers.
And what are we doing with this? What are corporations doing with this debt? They're issuing debt to buy back their own shares at $1 trillion a year. And then institutions are funneling that in order to, they need to find ways to generate yield absent any fundamental growth. So we have a year like last year where there's no actual earnings growth.
Earnings, yeah.
But it's all multiple expansion driven by share buybacks and speculation. So we're at this end of the cycle where this.
All right. So he said that we are the cycle when the snake starting to devour its own tail, and we see it. We see it. So the thing about that, it is compounded by the effects, of course, of coronavirus, and this adds another dimension to just something happening out of shared business cycles and shared monetary cycles. So what do we do? And the whole panel discussion today is on, okay, this is happening, yes, so we are in it, and we are doing things in it to survive. Okay, so what about after it? And we, of course, had a panel discussion on Friday, and we gave certain things and what each of us will do in times of trouble. Of course, diversification is one of the key things that they mentioned. Also in our OneAcademy manual, it does mention diversification It mentions also, let me see if I could pull it up here. It mentions also staying out of debt. All right. So in the manual, it gives certain play rules that one can utilize in order to survive and to come out of the winning end of this thing. So it says, think about alternative investments. Of course, we have just pointed out in times of turmoil, the situation looks very grim on the financial markets. However, usually not all assets collapse in crisis. You should look for growing ones and try to diversify your investments into them. So, of course, this is something that the normal man, the average man, wouldn't really look into. And what we are saying is that we need to look into this because what it does, it gives us the advantage of protecting our wealth and making money in times of a downtrend. And I use this analogy and I ask the panel here, most of us have smartphones, but at the end of the day, how many of us use 90% of what the phone can do? We don't. A lot of times what we do is just use, yes, we save our contacts, we send emails and so forth. But there are many other things that our phone can do to make our lives easier. Most of the times we just don't spend the time to learn about it. It's the same thing in the financial realm. What is happening is that you have this particular whole gambit of financial variables, financial apps, I would like to say. Just like our phone will have an app to do everything. But most of the times, what we do is utilize only a small percentage of what we can do financially to make our life easier. So I don't know if that analogy makes sense to you. And what the OneAcademy does is literally opens your mind up for you to really look at the whole picture. So whereas you would not have looked at stocks before, the OneAcademy advises you to look at stocks. Whereas you may not have looked at gold or silver before, the OneAcademy advises you to go into gold and silver. Whereas you may not have looked at the Forex market before, the OneAcademy says, listen, the Forex market is fundamental for you to understand how money moves from one country to the next and the money that is made in between. And whereas you may not have looked at being an entrepreneur before, the OneAcademy teaches you that you need to buy and sell or to be in a place of being an entrepreneur because it gives you the leverage. So it says here, learn something new, right? It also says that if you look at bubbles the correct way, a bubble will not necessarily hurt you. But again, having a particular financial etiquette may allow you now to take advantage of a bubble. And I'll give you the analogy, of course, of the Chinese, when they said that the word for opportunity and crisis basically is the same word, just your perception of it. And many times we focus on the crisis and not the opportunities. And of course, do not follow the crowd, which simply means that, not because everybody is running behind something, that is the way that you have to go. Critical thinking is one of the main aspects of leadership in the 21st century. And what we have realized, and what I have realized, especially in doing the OneAcademy, is that many people, when you speak to them, they cannot think critically. They cannot look at a situation and say, well, if X, Y, and Z is this, why is A, B, and C this? Why shouldn't A, B, and C be this factor? And many times we follow the crowd. So for instance, the bank says, listen, bring in all your money, and you have all your money in the bank, which in itself is a risk. You do that. And you remain in cash, not knowing fully well that cash is losing value day by day. So you follow the crowd just because you're not using all the necessary tools on this financial app. And that is what our discussion is about. So I'll open up the mics. We are already gone a certain distance, but I'll just open the mic up to Mr. Alvin Morton, just for him to share on some of the issues that may be of help to individuals after the lockdown and after we are going back to some semblance of reality? Salvin, yes, over to you.
Pleasant good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening to all who are on this call. Thank you very much, Ivan, for the opportunity to contribute. And it's interesting, it's amazing. I was in a call on another chat room yesterday, and one of the contributors was saying that the conversation is the same. He was almost in awe that he was in another group, another chat room, and the conversation is the same. What are we going to do post-COVID-19? We are hearing other things. In our country, Trinidad and Tobago, the Prime Minister appointed a recovery team, and I imagine other countries will do this. But what does that mean for us individuals? What can we do? For the most part, we're going to hear a lot of Keynesian thought. We have to do things with the demand. And in looking at that video that you played, Ivan, I couldn't help but notice that the 75 or 76 million baby boomers, depending, the numbers may vary depending on your source and who you're listening to, and how you categorize the period of the so-called baby boomer generation. That represents a significant demand. And as that group transitions into the next phase of its life cycle, it's leaving a gap behind from the Generation X and the millennials. What is also shared in other views is that the baby boomer generation are staying in jobs longer. They have different traits, characteristics, attitudes to work, and that is going to cause the newer generations who should be assuming the jobs left behind by the baby boomers. That's going to depress their ability to earn, which is only going to make things worse in this current COVID-19 scenario and post-COVID-19. So what are some of the things that we can do? You've articulated what the OneAcademy says. But there are some who will say, well, look, gentlemen, I'm not in a position to avail myself of gold and silver and some things you're talking about. What can I do? So in some instances, the banks have afforded a moratorium in payments. Can you employ the 70-10-10-10 rule? Can you take 10% of that and apply it to gold and silver? This is money that you would have put out anyway. Can you take a percentage and apply it to gold and silver if you can get it? That's one question. We have to do charitable giving, or else we are going to see an exacerbation of the social fallout of not just the deficit situation that we had pre-COVID-19, but the worsening of that post-COVID-19. So we need to find ways to ameliorate, attenuate, lessen that impact. There are things we can do, whether we want to give that to an NGO or whatever it is. And then there's the other 10% now that you can use maybe to plant food. And I'm not suggesting that for those of us who have the land space, you can plant food to sell, because food is going to be an important consideration in this. And then extrapolating that now to a cooperative approach, where, excuse me, the things that you cannot plant or plant in sufficient quantity, I can, through the use of what was called barter, the fancy term now is counter trade, we can start our own economy in that sense, so that you reduce the amount of demand, so to speak, that is placed on your currency, and you can apply it to other things. Because then we were in a conversation separately, Ivan, where the question was asked, can you survive this if this were to continue for another 2 months or 3 months? When your situation, we each have them, is looked at in that context, it forces the age-old, I think it's one of Aesop's fables, necessity becomes the mother of invention. You will find ways. We will harken back to the days of our grandparents and the level of financial ingenuity they were able to employ without even the benefit of the OneAcademy. But there are a lot of common sense things that the OneAcademy has said. Now is not a time to be in debt. We have been saying on the OneAcademy platform for some time. And those of us who are, and I'm certainly not excluding myself, would want to aim as fast as possible to reduce our exposure to debt. Because at some point, the payments will become due. And this business of the ant and how the ants operate, the ants work all summer so that the lows that come in winter can be successfully navigated until summer again. We are up for a long winter, so to speak, with this post-COVID-19, especially those of us.
We kind of lost you on the volume there.
And not essential.
Your song is muted.
Volume was okay, you know.
Yeah, I think. All right. Until Alvin fixes
Are you all hearing me?
Yeah,
Because
okay,
my
you know. Yeah.
I am hearing you. I am hearing you.
Yes, we're hearing you now.
Yeah, it's not muted.
Okay.
All right. So there are some things that are practical in my view that one can look at. There are things that we have to do. While there may be social distancing, there's a measure of closeness that we have to have in a converse way in order to close the gaps that we will have. We will need to employ, and Ivan, I hit you with this term, to employ financial distancing. We have to distance ourselves financially from certain transactions, from certain situations. And one of the gaps that this will expose is, what do we really know about Forex? And why haven't we pursued it, myself included, with a greater amount of vigor? It might be that we are scared, we are fearful, and that's okay. What we have to develop on the opposite side of the fear is courage. And that 10% that I talked about, that could be used for another thing, can be to reinvest in yourself. The OneAcademy talks about reskilling, in the sense that if you can only sell houses, and houses are on down slope, you may want to reskill. And I'm putting that, I don't think it says that, but it's new additional skill. And finally, I want to close with one of the biggest changes that I think we need to make, and that is a paradigm shift. We have in this country been operating on a paradigm of oil and gas. Oil and gas will save us. We need not look far to what happened to oil some weeks ago. Producers were paying customers to take oil. This is likely to continue. Okay, so we are not on West Texas Intermediate, we're on North Sea. North Sea Brent prices have seen their lowest levels in a very long time, perhaps unprecedented. And I was looking at some news last week. There are a lot of ships, tankers lined up, waiting for a berth to offload the oil. The demand is not there. What are we going to do in those scenarios? So we have to revisit things that are naturally abundant to us, like solar energy. okay? And we have to impress on our leadership, both at the political and at other level, of the need to redirect some of the income we get from staples like oil and gas to the development of these alternative technologies so that we can cushion, we can limit, we can mitigate the impact of what is clearly going to be the new normal. Another controversial thing that's going to come up is this business of the vaccine. But I'll leave the space and floor open now for someone else to contribute. Thank you very much, Ivan.
Thank you so much. Yeah, well, the vaccine is another situation that literally we don't have time to get into. But something that the person said on that video, which to me always shows itself in time of crisis. And you see that the retirement group, because in 2008, of course, the baby boomers retiring between 2008 and 2017, all right? And at 2008, we had the recession. They lost value again. The millennials and, of course, the X and Y generation, they don't have that sort of financial wherewithal to weather anything. So you have a very, very ticklish situation here that is compounded. So I want to hear Marie on especially the retirement part, because the worst place to be in time of crisis is at the beginning of your career and at the end of your career. Those are the two worst places to be, because you're vulnerable on both ends.
What I want to say though is, that is in fact so. What I want to say though is that last recession, the Great Recession of 2008, gave birth to this sphere of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology. From that, we were talking. A lot of people may not have paid attention. Some people would have. And I think what this does is for those who were caught with their proverbial pants down because they're not paying attention, some people, to even take in the OneAcademy and diversify and do what is happening. This situation allows them to prepare, because it's not going to end with COVID. Things will happen, and whether it is the cyclical element of how inflation and how recession goes, or viruses, or whatever, people have to embrace the fact that suddenly you may not be able to go to a job if you're not essential for months, and thereby limiting your ability to maintain your family.
Yeah.
Overlay that with retirement, and even people waiting for their retirement nest egg, but not organizing stuff, so that border is closed and you have to deal with things. So the important thing is to prepare, because you said beyond COVID-19, we in this situation, and people will say, well, there's no opportunity to do this, do that, etc. But there are opportunities for people to become creative. That's why one of the skill sets of the era we are in is innovation and thinking through what can be done at this point in time to tool up, that being aware of putting things in place beyond this.
All right, great. Of course, this OneAcademy supposed to be utilized. These calls is not just a discussion, but it's really a platform for our people to invite new people, for them to hear exactly the reality of what is taking place, and for them to be offered now a new paradigm, as Alvin says, to weather and also benefit from what is taking place. And yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, based on that too, the whole thing about benefiting is something that Winston Churchill said that you don't want to let a good crisis go to waste, because they're learning from it. And you want to be able to to learn from it. And we have to also look at the benefits and how we make this sustainable. And I am a voice for the environmental reset we have. It continue because the new normal will be lesser work days, lesser people out, and therefore our environment was in a state where this allows things to reset and to sustain it. We would need to put things in place, and I know that's all over the place. I mean, I'm kind of varying from what we talk about, but that is also a burden on our economy if we don't take heed of our environment.
Yes, very critical. All right, with that being said, of course, there are only 16 people, and it's such a, I don't want to say shame, but it is really disappointing that we only have 16 participants on this call because, again, people don't want to be told that they need to do something different. And I think we are all stuck in certain ways because even for us, for the past 4 years, we knew the crisis was coming. The people in this network knew because we were told so from the information that we got from the OneAcademy. But when you do the statistics, how many of us really planned for this? So it is still something that regardless of what, people have a difficulty in changing their modus operandi. And it's only when, you know, especially in the Caribbean, because of course, if you listen to any other person in the first world countries, a lot of them who know exactly what to do have been preparing, have been putting aside their money, have been diversifying their portfolio in order for them to really come out on this on top. I think, Alvin, before we go to our merchant of the day, Alvin, you wanted to say something? I think you had your mic unmuted.
No, I am fine. I just looked at the participant list and realized we only had 16 persons on the chat. And while I agree and endorse the view, it's disappointing, I'm also reminded of something Robert Kiyosaki says. He says that in 100 people, only 2 persons in his experience would listen to what he has said. He himself has also given very simple advice, and that is buy gold and silver and forget about it. That's his basic thing. For the more adventurous among us, he would say get real estate. And, well, I don't know if his view is still the same, but he also articulated getting involved in oil.
Yes.
As the 4 pillars that he tends to work off on.
Yeah. And of course, Dr. Ruja says only 5% will literally read this book and only 5% will follow through. So the numbers don't lie.
There you go.
The numbers don't lie. It's same, the Pareto, ratio holds true no matter what. So hopefully, yeah, Miri?
I don't want us to be daunted by the numbers because we're in a different era. And in this era, having had a record of this posted on our YouTube site, you will have more visibility, traction, people seeing it, and we'll still have that 1 or 5% or 3% just of a bigger pool.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so I turn it over to Dwayne as the host to introduce our merchant of the day. Thank you so much, guys. Again, see you on Thursday, I believe. As tomorrow is Deal Shaker Tuesday. So I'll turn it over to you, Dwayne.
Okay, thank you, Ivan. All right, it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce Mr. Jason Gordon. A little bit about him. He's a senior electrical computer engineer and an entrepreneur with over 30 years working experience in business administration, engineering, and ICT. And there's so much more that can be said about Mr. Gordon, but I will allow him to do that himself. So today I'd like to welcome today's Deal Shaker merchant, Mr. Jason Gordon. So he'll introduce himself and of course introduce his digital store on the Deal Shaker platform. Mr. Gordon, it's over to you.
Okay, thanks very much. Can you all hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
Excellent. Okay, I'm just, are you seeing my screen here? These are some of the deals that I've had over the past years.
We're seeing it, Mr. Gordon.
Seen it quite well, right?
Yes, we're seeing it.
Okay,
If you can
excellent.
make it larger, I don't know, but we're seeing it.
Okay.
If not, don't worry if you can.
No problem.
Just carry on.
No problem.
Explain it.
Okay, well, I started my store when Deal Shaker opened, because from day one I recognized the potential of Deal Shaker as a marketing and promotion portal. So I took a lot of the use of the opportunity. So here are a couple of deals. One of the deals here is about GPS tracking, online tracking, and fleet management. I also experiment with a mobile phone top-up here in Trinidad. Okay, I started off with a 100% coin deal, and of course sold out. Then I started to offer devices, again 100% coin, and just a few just to test the market and so on. Again, sold out. The phone card was a hit, and that really encouraged me at the time that this thing really has a lot of potential, you know. So again, a lot of marketing information. The top-ups were sold out. Then we started to again go with a mix of top-up for cash and coin, fiat and coin. Again, sold out, and that's kind of like a good idea. But when it came to some of the devices, though, as the prices went up, you realize that you know, there'll be a lower demand. So we had deals for GPS tracking devices. We specialize in the Tramigo brand. We came up with phone cards, a mix again. I tried 600, and again, you know, a reasonable number sold, 290. And again, it's an opportunity to get market information. The online tracking wasn't that successful, but again, we only had a few coupons sold. Then we went for the devices. A couple, again, we offered a large number here, but only a couple sold. Then we move to the next page. So again, just a mix of devices. Then I started to test the phone market, coupled with loyalty programs. So I had one Samsung A10 smartphone, 100% coin, and if you join the CarryTrack loyalty program, because I wanted to really expand our marketing program. And this really created a stir right throughout Deal Shaker. There are people all over the world asking for 100% coin on phone, but it went pretty well. So I started to experiment with bundling, you know, on a loyalty program, bundling top-up with like Pennywise vouchers and so on. I call it a top-up blast promotion, where I started to bundle different products. As Muriel was saying, I started to innovate, to test the market and so on. And that went pretty well. In fact, there's a very strong demand for the bundle packages. I had a few personal tracking devices, Tramigo devices, and this is where it got international attention. I think one person in Reunion in Africa purchased it, and this went pretty well. We started the loyalty club program for Auto Club, and well, we didn't get a chance to complete it. It's still in progress when the COVID crisis hit, but we still plan to continue as soon as the market eases up, as soon as the lockdown is over. Then this is our current program here, where what we did is that we started to offer a technical support coupon and financing for phones. Because as things begin to get a bit tighter, we said, look here, let me give a technical support coupon. And if somebody buys the coupon, then we partnered with a mobile phone retail store in Port of Spain to offer phones with financing by CarryTrack Limited. We sold 4 coupons, but the lockup kind of like muted a lot of this activity. But as soon as there's an ease in the market, we will see how that goes. So I'll follow up with these 4 people and see if we could finish off on this deal. One of our things that we are focusing going forward in the future is that we are into web development and ICT development big time, but I have focused much of the services inward in terms of supporting Carry Track Limited. And one of the things we did, which was quite innovative, let me see, this is the last program, last deal that we have online. I did a landing page for this deal where there's a discount voucher offered. But what we also did is to explain to people this nuisance warning, suspected phishing site ahead. And because we wanted to mute that effect, so I included a section in the landing page to explain to people who encountered it. And so, you know, and there's a link direct to the deal shaker deal, and this is it here. This is the deal. But you can actually go from the landing page. If you click on this link, you go past the phishing warning and you go straight to the deal shaker deal. So what we plan to do is to heavily promote our website development services to other business people, because the opportunity that the COVID crisis has created is people are beginning to think more seriously about online transaction and websites. Websites are around a long time, but people have not found the time or realize the importance of having an online business operation where you can pay for goods and services online. You can literally have a fully online business operation. So we plan to offer deals like that for low cost going into the future. So that's a kind of a whirlwind presentation. Any questions from the other panelists?
Mr. Gordon?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So we had a conversation privately about innovation, and how we can all come together as being a part of the One Life Network and do collaborations in order to generate income.
Yes.
You know, I know, and most people are looking for a payday these days, but I guess because of how we've been, I have to say, how we've been mind manipulated, collaboration is not one of the first things that come to mind as far as Caribbean people are concerned.
Yes,
and, and African people, right? Yeah. But as we learn through the OneAcademy, there has to be an effort of collaboration and innovation in these times in order to be profitable. Could you elaborate a little bit on that for us?
Well, as you mentioned that is so critical, because we need to recognize opportunity and we need to recognize value, and this is where the OneAcademy comes in, and the value of our system is the people. We are the valuable assets, and we need to understand that as we collaborate, we can actually create value. We of ourselves offer a value-added service, and if everybody come together and as a community, and those who can work together well, so we are individual pieces of a puzzle, and if the right pieces can come together, we can make some magic, in terms of this crisis, because a crisis is just an opportunity in disguise, and we have to have that mentality. We have to have that thought process going on in our heads and recognize opportunity. There are a lot of companies that are making a lot of money during this crisis. I was looking at Netflix, and Netflix have a whole range of new shows, and they're just they're going to make millions. In fact, their business already increased, Netflix, and there are other companies. Yes.
Listen, one of the things that we discussed on Friday was the fact that we are stepping into a digital world when we come out of this thing. Do you have any bundle packages, like for groups of people, like if, say, myself, Muriel, Dwayne, we want to do websites, and we want to enter seriously into the e-commerce market, using, of course, the Deal Shaker, but having it just like how you had it, a web page, basically directing you to the e-commerce, to the Deal Shaker. Can something like that work out, and can numbers be good enough that everybody benefits?
Well,
the price is concerned?
Well, I've started to think through that package. But one of the challenges I need is that I need the skills and expertise of another person. Now, my expertise is basically on the business and technology end, but I need somebody who can write, editors, writers, layout, you know. I'm like a contractor. I can build, but I need an architect.
Okay.
So I need people with the right skill set so we can do this thing together. But I can't do this by myself, and I really need other people to really come together to do it jointly.
Okay, but I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, so thank you so much.
Excellent.
Jason, I think it's critical that people understand the nature of really e-commerce and digital formatting, because as I said, this is the new wave. This is how everything is going to be. So we're glad to have you on board. I know that you were one of the first merchants. You were one of the first merchants and Deal Shaker advocate yourself, Imtiaz, of course, and Eric. And you were there from inception of this Deal Shaker.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, so
my pleasure.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Jason. Well done.
Bye-bye.
All right, so with that, I believe we can end this call. Dwayne?
Dwayne?
Yes, sir. I got bumped off momentarily. One's
Okay.
out. Thanks, guys.
All right. So have a good day, everyone. See you all on Tuesday.
Tuesday for the Deal Shaker Day and Thursday for our regular OneAcademy session. Bye.
Yes. Okay. Bye, everyone.